Hey y'all, it is Miss Elam, and we are going to be talking about GoGuardian basics today. Let's get going. Alright, so in order to get started with GoGuardian, the first thing we have to do is build our very first classroom. Now there are two different ways that we can do this. We can either add our own classroom manually, which means we input the Gmails that we have for students, or we can import the actual Google Classroom. This one is the easiest one, as it allows you to simply sync yourself up with Google Classroom, and then every time you press that sync button, it will upload and populate all of those new students that recently joined into your Google Classroom and into your GoGuardian. So I highly recommend this one. What you'll do is you'll simply click Import Google Classroom, and then you'll scroll down until you can find a classroom that you want to import. So I want to import this class from last year. So I'm going to click Aspire Elam and simply import the classroom. What it's doing right now is populating all of those students from my Google Classroom into my GoGuardian. If any students ever pop into your Google Classroom and you want to make sure they're in GoGuardian, you'll see when I click into the actual classroom, on the Students tab, I can sync students from Google at any time, and it runs the sync process to ensure that students are where they need to be. And with that, we have created our very first classroom. Congratulations! Once we have our classroom made, our next step is going to be setting up the scenes. Scenes are going to be located on the left taskbar. What scenes do is they allow you to control what students do have access to on the internet and what they do not have access to. Anytime a scene is active in your GoGuardian class, then you have a little bit of control of what kids are looking at. Now there are two different ways that you can do this. You can either create an allowed websites list or a blocked websites list. The allowed websites list will block everything except whatever you create in here. This one is a little more tricky to work with than the blocked websites list. With the allowed websites list, if you were to put something as simple as www.google.youtube.com, it would block all of YouTube and all of Google in addition. So if you were going to use this one, please just be careful with how you use it. With the blocked websites list, this one is my favorite one to play with. Simply what you'll do is you'll create a list, and you can name it whatever you want. So if you're going to make a scene for when students are working on their evaluate test, you can name it evaluate testing. You can add a description if you want, but you don't have to. And you can change the color, of course. I'm going to do a purple color. And then you just click next. Now this is where the real magic is going to happen. Here is where you're going to be able to input any URLs or any websites that you want to block for your students. You also have some options to create quick lists for your students, to auto-open tabs when they join your classroom, or there's also advanced filtering. With the auto-open tabs, if you have students in your GoGuardian, whenever they log in the morning when they start your class, you can set it so it automatically opens Google Classroom, for example, or you can even set it to open a particular Google Classroom assignment. That is also a possibility. But as I'm going through, I might block ABCYA, and I'll search for it, and then it will pull up all of the potential things. So for me, I'm going to block this one, and 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 this one. And maybe next I want to look for YouTube, and I know for a fact that I want to block YouTube. So, I'm going to definitely block this, and this, and this, and this. As you go through, you can add any specific URLs that you want, or you can add just those keywords and pull up the URLs. For example, if I wanted to, for some reason, block Google Keep, I simply copy and paste in the Keep URL, click search, and it'll come up, and then I can just add it in. When you have everything blocked that you'd like to be blocked, you can double check it over here. You can also limit your tab for students. So if you are working on an evaluate test, you auto open that evaluate, right? Then you can click maybe a 2-tab limit or even a 1-tab limit. If you're doing evaluate, definitely shoot for that 2-tab limit, just so that they have enough space to actually open the test in a new window. The evaluate freaks out like that sometimes. But then you're ready to go. You just click save and your scene is prepared and ready. And as you scroll down, you'll also see all of your scenes that you've created underneath the blocked websites and all of the scenes underneath the allowed websites. Of course, at any time, you can go in and edit them. You can add websites, you can remove websites, whatever works. So for example, I will click into this as we go. You can edit, rename, make a copy, or delete it. I'm going to go ahead and edit it. These are all of the things that I blocked from my students at Aspire last year. Paper.io, Shell Shockers, Gun Mayhem, Douchebag Workout 2, you know, just the normal stuff that kids would look up. But I can always add something to this. So if I have all of these blocked, but then one of my students gets on another game or finds something else to play, basketball all-stars perhaps, I can block that there right here and it should update immediately, which is really nice. So that is the beauty of scenes. The last thing we have to do to be ready to use our GoGuardian account is to actually start playing around with the classes and with the students as they are searching. We have right here, our little box that holds all of our class information. We can either start the class with the chat turned on or off. It's on. When it's on, it is great for independent work. It is great for working with students who are virtual because it allows you to communicate with them straight away. They have a box constantly on their screen that they can see all the time, and as you add chats, it beeps a little bit. Or you can keep it off if you just want to see what they're looking at and pop them up on the screen. You can also control what it is or how long the actual session is. So if you know that your session is going to be 30 minutes, then you can go ahead and click 30-minute session. You can add an end time. There are some limits. So I believe you cannot go past, I think it's 5 or 6 p.m. Because that's the end of the school day. You can also not have a GoGuardian running on the weekends because, again, students are not at school. So once we have our time ready, I'm going to go ahead and do 60 minutes. And then I'm going to click this Start Class button. Now I have a student's account pulled up and she is looking at a couple of things that I've asked her to look at. So that way I can show you how to move around inside of GoGuardian. So the first thing we're going to see at the top is what class we are currently viewing. If we have any other classrooms that are active now for some reason, they'll also appear up here. We did this a lot for when we were doing virtual, but my recommendation is this. If you are working with a class, please ensure that your class GoGuardian is only on when those students are in your class. If it is on while the students are in another class, if that teacher needs to use a URL that you blocked, then those students are unable to complete that work. And same with vice versa. So my recommendation is not to use GoGuardian for classes that are not actually in your class. Then we have our update time. If you know that your class is going to go a little over for whatever reason, you can add a couple minutes or you can change the end time. And you can also end the session at any time. Now what we'll see down here is the list of all of the students. As you can see, all of these students are not offline, which means they have not yet logged into their Chromebook. But this lovely lady, she is logged in for us. So I'm going to go ahead and click hers. You'll see that she is on YouTube right now. She also has some math games pulled up, and I can tell that because when I look under tabs over here, it says math games and then it says YouTube. So I can see all the tabs that she has open. At any time, I can also close all of those tabs. So if she decides that she's going to go over to math games and I don't want her there, I'm just going to close it. Something that I also really like to do is if I see that they're on something they shouldn't be on, I usually right-click that URL, I copy it, and then I close it. So that way, when it is finally closed, so that they won't reopen it again, I'll just add it to the scene. And I can do that in one of two ways. I can either click on this and go to my scene and add it manually, and it will automatically update, or I can create a new scene and add it here. This little box up here where it says no scene applied, that is how we're going to add the scenes. So right now you'll notice that she is still on YouTube, but if I add my evaluate scene that we made before, the evaluate testing one, it will block YouTube. So that way, automatically, Her YouTube screen will show a blue, "Hey, you've reached a website that your teacher does not want you at" screen. So it is officially blocked. We can close it out, or we can let her close it out and be a little upset, whatever works for you. There are also a couple of other things here that I really like. The first one is open a new tab. If we see that a student is off task, you simply click that open a new tab, and then you can send them whatever URL it is that you want them to look at. So if I want them to get on Google Keep for whatever reason, I can add it in. I do remember that I blocked that. So I'm going to go ahead and do just Google and open it up. And when I do that, it will open up the actual Google. I can lock a device if she's getting on something that she should not be getting on consistently. Also, if she's looking at anything inappropriate, I can screenshot it. And finally, annotations are so cool. You can change the pointer color if you want. So if I wanted to make it a dark pastel red, and I can also make it large. So if she's been sitting on this screen for a while and she needs to reload, I might annotate and click on this a few times. Ooh. And when it actually works, a little circle will appear on her screen showing her where it is that she needs to look. She might have accidentally just disconnected from the internet. That's all right. That's okay. That's fine. So we are going to go ahead and get out of this and look at a few other things. Oh, first, the chat. So you can turn this chat on for individual students or for any students at any time. When you do, you'll be able to communicate with them, and a box will appear on their screen right about here. And I can send just a message to her. And when she looks at it, it will show that she is actively looking at it. And we can see her respond, and then when she writes out a message, it comes back. All great, all dandy. It gives notification here, and it also gives you notification here. Now this side is super cool. Whenever you click this little circle, oh, hold on, Raymond is getting back on, and I do not want to have, there we go. When this circle is here and we click this, we can add our announcement at any time. So if I were to type out an announcement, this announcement would go immediately to whoever I wanted it to go to. And also, if we do this announcement here, since we're sending it to a class, it will go immediately to everybody in that class. I'm not going to send one now because we have students who are officially logging back on. So go ahead and turn it off, and then we'll be good. I think that is most of the exciting things inside of GoGuardian. I will say timelines are pretty cool. They show you what students were on most of the time. So if you want to pull up a student's activity for that class period and download it and send it to a parent and say, hey, this is what they were on during class, you can. You can also access your screenshots here. I believe that we are not able to call students. So I'm going to go ahead and click this, go back here, and yeah, that looks like that's about it. We can end the session at any time that we want, end session, and then we are all done with that. At any time, of course, we can always click this and go back to our sessions, and they'll even pull up the chat logs for us, which is really nice. So yeah, GoGuardian is it can be difficult when you get started, but as you play with it and as you experiment, it begins to make more sense. So if there's anything that I can ever do to support or be helpful, please don't hesitate to ask, and I will see you all at school.